Welcome to the Spirit of a Badass, where we celebrate stories of courage, hope, and resiliency. I am your host, Alecia Jacobson.
Hello, my badass friends. Welcome to today's episode. Today is a solo episode, and I'm going to just start by saying I'm in the trenches of the kind of life transitions that I'm going to be talking about today. So it hits very close to home. And also, it's something that I work with pretty much every single woman that I coach. We work on this in some capacity. But before I get started, I want to invite you to the Women's Coaching Circle. The Women's Coaching Circle is my small group coaching that is a group of women that we get together several times a month on Zoom, and we create connection. We problem solve. We bring all the things that happen in our world or the goals that we have, and we bring them to the circle and we make them happen. We break habits. All the things happen in the circle. And I just want to say, if you're listening to this, likely it is a good fit for you, because if you vibe with me and you're like, yeah, I like listening to her, likely you're going to like the circle, because I have a way of attracting people who have the same kind of energy that they output. And I had the same thing at the gym. It was like all of the same kind of badass woman would show up at the gym, and sometimes women would come, not that they weren't badass, but then they would just leave right away. Like, oh, not your vibe. And that's okay. But if you're listening to this, likely it's your vibe. And I will also say, you're probably thinking, there is no way in hell I would join something like this, because I'm not going to talk to people about my personal things. And let me just share, yes, you can. And most every single woman that joined the circle the first time are like, they message me privately and say, I'm so nervous. I'm kind of worried about sharing who I am. And, we all have our spaces that the world at large doesn't get to see, that our coworkers don't get to see, even sometimes that our friends don't get to see the parts of us. And you can't even imagine showing up to what is complete strangers and sharing these bits of yourself. But after the second and third time, and you have other women being brave and sharing very personal things, it gives you permission to do the same thing. And before you know it, you are so wildly connected and supported and supporting this group of women that you feel like you have this is amazing support system and amazing connection. And then what you can do in life, because you have that, the kind of like superpower that gives you, because you feel so supported that you're not carrying the weight of everything that you carry out in the world, because you have a place to share it. You have a place where you can show up and be just as who you are. So that is what the energy is like in the women's circle. And it gives you more time. It gives you more energy, because you're able to then feel less heavy, because you're sharing the things, and also you're creating the life that you want to create, which sounds so stupid and generic. I hate it, but it's crappy because it's so true that I don't have other words for it. But you're actually creating the things that you want to create, and giving yourself more time, giving yourself better rest, giving yourself freed up mental space from the complete overload that we as women carry. So that is what the Women's Circle is like. And you can look in the show notes and connect with me in that way. My website is there, and there is a page on my website that has the information on contacting me about the Women's Circle. But that registration opens up September 1st, and we begin October 1st. And anyway, let's dive into today's episode. Like I said, I am in the trenches of this right now, and I'm kind of climbing out enough that I can talk about it, because if you haven't noticed, I'm a bit of a deep emotional feeler on things. And I also have this stubbornness about me that doesn't allow other people to sort of see that emotion and feeling. I feel like I oftentimes put on this sort of, well, we all do. You put on this like brave face to go out into the world, and I just sort of shove it down and keep it to myself. And so I'm letting you know that I'm still in this, but also I know enough about it to share how you can handle it. And also, I work with people on this all the time. So anyway, let's get in. So the idea of this is kind of recalibrating in life's transitions. And this can mean all sorts of transitions, from big ones like divorce, death, retirement, a big move, to more ones that happen on a more kind of routine and scheduled basis, like back to school time, a career change, or a shift in your role at your work, from your family dynamics shifting, whether that's maybe somebody getting married and coming into your family, a college student moving, or, maybe a college student coming home for the summer and then moving back. Maybe you have a child that is moving back home. Anything sort of like that, a school change or a change inside the school that is impacting your life. Maybe you're dating, anything. It can be things that kind of incite a more negative vibe, a negative feeling, a negative emotion, that a death, a divorce, things like that would bring, or things that are actually you're looking forward to, like a work promotion or dating. But either way, when these things happen, it can be unexpected. It can be you haven't been anticipating this. And if you're anything, like me, I really love anticipating things. I'm not an overthinker in the sense of, if a situation happens, I don't think about it afterwards and overthink that way. I prefer to do is to overthink things before they happen and come up with all the possible ways that it could go. I know you know this. I know that you know this. My brain just thrives on that anxiety of, how can I possibly think of all of the 30 ways that this one little scenario could go? And then perhaps I just stay up at night thinking about it. Anyway, I know that you know what this is. And so you have these things, good or bad, and then we have to fucking roll with it. We do. We have no other choice. And how you go about that can really make or break. If you're on my email list, you got an email a couple weeks ago that I sent out about kind of managing life transitions. And I gave 3 kind of things that you could do in that. And so I'm going to share those things, but since I'm here and I can just be speaking freely, I'm going to kind of expand on them. So the first thing to do is, if you're experiencing a transition, is to break it down. So you're going to break it down and you're going to get it out of your head. And this, let me tell you, is so magical because this is women come in and they're like, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do about this. And they start talking about it. And as they start talking about it, all of a sudden it's like they take like, if your brain is just a bunch of puzzle pieces and all of each piece is a thought about whatever the stressor is, and the good or bad, it still causes stress. And they dump the puzzle out. And as they start talking about each kind of thing relating to it, each piece, the pieces start getting put together. And if you keep all the pieces swirling in your head, you can't actually put them together to see it clearly. So this is a magical thing to do. So you get it all out of your head, and it's absolutely magical. And in any way that you have all the things in your head, just get it out, get it on paper. You can talk to somebody like me, a coach. You can talk to your therapist. You can talk to a friend. I'm a real big fan of talking and walking. So if you have a walking partner, I have my walking buddy, and I just say that we're out not murdering people, because if anything goes wrong in our life, we give it in our walk. And then we're saving lives. We are saving lives by out there walking. So whenever you see the women walking together, just know that somebody's life is being saved by that walk. And I know that you know this, you do. And so once you get it out, you have the ability to see it more clear. The key here is remembering that this is a tool that you have. So that can look like practicing. And this is where it's so interesting because even though I do this all the time, I sometimes forget that, oh, this would be the most helpful thing. It takes me. So I have a mastermind group that I am with, and I brought kind of my transition issue, and I'll tell you later in the podcast what they told me, but I was like, oh, yeah. Had I not spoken that out loud, because again, I like to keep that stuff to myself, which is not helpful in situations like this. And once I actually spoke it out loud, they were able to reflect it back and see it differently. And that just makes all the difference. So getting it out of your head, breaking it down as best you can, meaning seeing almost like a web, like you see all the different parts of it, and then you can pick a piece of it if that is right in your situation, and you can start working with just that piece instead of it feeling like a whole mountain that you have to tackle. Like, let's say grief, for instance. If you listen to my episode from last week with Megan Clark, her husband died. And she said, that was such a moving episode. If you didn't listen to it, go listen to it. That was episode 50. But she said, every morning I opened the curtains. And that was her one thing. That was her breaking it down in this awful life transition. And her one thing that she did, and I'm sure there were other things, but that was a very impactful thing, is opening the curtains. If nothing else happened that day, the curtains were open, the sun was coming in, the light was coming in. And that is what I mean when I say break it down. It doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming, I must process all this grief and do all of the things right now. It can be just one thing. And then the second thing is asking for help. In my email, by the way, if you want to get on my email list, you can get there on my website also. You can subscribe to it. The second thing is being flexible. And this is the one that is hardest for me, is this idea of I have a plan and this is not in my plan. So being flexible with things is a little bit more challenging for me. I think I know the best way to do the things and having to kind of step back and think about a different way to experience whatever it is a little bit tricky. Or a lot of times when you're having these type of transitions, it's not just you. You have other people around you that you are either managing or handling or are different. And you have to have this new level, this new way of being flexible and really flex that flexible muscle. Yeah, you have to flex it. You have to be like, just chill out and kind of release the need for it to look a certain way, the way that maybe you pictured it, and you will be better off. And in this, my comfort is it doesn't have to look this way forever. You can create this sort of flexibility. And let's just go because like my kids are all home right now. And one of the things that every year, I don't know why I struggle with the back to school and then kind of back to summer, those transitions. I call it like the two hardest weeks is when my kids sort of trickle out of school and then they sort of trickle back into school because there is generally no steady childcare. It seems chaotic. They don't all start and end on the same day. We have a very big blended family with lots of different schools. And it just seems very chaotic. And I struggle with that every year. I've gotten better because I can plan for it. I'm like, oh, this is what worked. And let me just tell you, I'm going to insert another story here. I was working with a client on a very similar thing. And she came up with, oh, this is a very stressful time, meaning not necessarily like a bad stress, but summer is harder because childcare can be unreliable, but sometimes she would do these travel days where she would have to be gone. And then one time she didn't have childcare. And it's like, well, what am I going to do? How do I make this work? And we did this process with her where talking about, breaking it down. And then the next one, who can you ask for help? But what she realized is like, wait a second, maybe I just don't travel during the summer months. Maybe this is where I say, because if you do have that kind of, flexibility and autonomy in your work, that you can say, oh, I'm just going to do that. This part of my work is going to be in the time of school where I have very reliable childcare. And that was something that she was like, I can't believe I didn't think about this. And that is because all the puzzle pieces were swirling around in her head. And until you get them out and start putting them together, you can't actually see. And that is where that's going to make a huge difference. But then here is what she did. This is the next step. This is where I was going, because when I'm saying I have this struggle every single year, putting stuff on your calendar ahead of time. So what she did in that moment is went to her calendar and she blocked on the summer only where she could see it. Do not do this, because if we talk about it now in August and then April rolls around and she's planning stuff out, she's not going to remember, oh, that coaching session I had with Alecia in the beginning of August. We have too much life that happens. So making sure that I have people set quarterly reminders for things if they're, planning things, but whatever it is, you have to have a way of remembering, oh yeah, I'm making a change. I'm going to do things that are different. But that can be a beautiful way of being flexible and looking at like, oh, I don't actually have to just do what I've always done. There are other ways. Just often you haven't even thought about them because all of the pieces are in your head. So what that can look like as far as my issue with feeling, it just feels chaotic. And I'm sort of like the last couple weeks, my expectations are low. I just have to have this understanding of this is just the way that's going to be, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. My husband actually said something to me yesterday, I think it was. He said he does listen. He does listen because it's essentially what I was just saying, break it down and pick one thing. I was feeling overwhelmed yesterday and I was telling him like the word vomit, all the things that were just feeling like they weren't going the way I wanted them to. And he goes, how about you just pick one of those things and just try to do it really well today? And part of me was like, oh my gosh, stop. And then a part of me was like, wow, yes, that is exactly. I don't like people telling me what to do. That was a gentle suggestion, but he was right. And I did. I thought, oh, I'm just going to be present with my kids. And I kind of scrapped the idea that I had of what our day was going to be. And I just had the focus on, I'm just going to be with my kids and I'm going to have fun and I'm going to smile. And I even told my daughter, I was like, all right, this is our plan for the day. She is 9 and I can't say it because the device that is behind me will start playing. But she told the device to play Good Day by Nappy Roots, which is first of all, if you need a feel-good song, that's a feel-good song. But if our morning is ever going awry on the way, getting out the door to school, we play that song on the way to school and it turns things around. Now, you being flexible is going to look completely different than everybody it's going to be unique to them. But that's a couple different ways where getting it out of your head and having that flexibility is really helpful. And then the third one, and this is where I apologize to my readers in my email, is asking for help because people don't like asking for help. They feel like it means that they're weak or they can't handle it or anything like that. But let me just tell you, we need to ask for help. We need to get the people around us to support us, and whatever it would look like asking for help for you. That could look like just taking a break. Last week, I reached out to my mom and I just said, could you please, I had my youngest, but I asked if she could stay for the night because I just needed to get things done. And if you follow me on social media, you probably know that my youngest she is vibrant. she is. So I get up in the morning and I could not speak for an hour and be just completely fine. My 9-year-old, same thing. We just we sit and we just take in the world and we don't speak. And that is just the way we are. My youngest one, she gets up and she has 1,000 thoughts that just come pouring out. And that happens all day long until the moment she goes to bed. And sometimes that can be a lot for this introvert here. And I phoned for help because I needed to just have a brain break. And that was okay. And also asking for help can, look like in a family meeting. I don't know what episode it is, but I've got, the weekly meetings that I do with my husband. It can be saying, okay, here's what's happening. Are there any ways that you can show up for me? It can look like, having different meals for the week. It can look so many different ways. I mentioned big and small things. And when I went through my divorce, that was where I was like, I have to ask for help. I have to admit that I cannot do it all, because I really wanted to just do it all. And my people, they showed up. They showed up so big. And that was hard. That was where I learned how to ask for help. And the more that you can learn that, the better off you will be. And that can it can look so many different ways. And making sure that when you're doing it, if it's something that makes you feel uncomfortable, just practice in small ways first, and then kind of think about where would help be the most effective with whatever your transition is. And that's going to look different for different things. A couple other things that I wanted to just touch on with this is transitions are going to be hard, and let it be hard. That is, I think, something that is where a lot of my struggle comes in. Is it's hard for me to just let things be hard, especially if I wasn't planning for them. Now, if I'm doing something, if I'm starting something and I know it's going to be hard, like it's sort of, you like build that mental, you have that grit, you have that, all the things that you're kind of charge ahead. And if this is something that happens as unexpected, releasing that control, releasing that need to control the outcome, to sort of surrender. I don't even like that word. I don't even like that word, surrender. It makes like my throat feels tight right now, and it makes my chest hurt just thinking about the word surrender. Side note, if you have these things happen, that is a place to work. And now I'm like hot. Welcome to my therapy session. Surrendering is hard for me. But let it be hard. Know like this is going to be hard, and let it wash over you. Be in that hard space, be in the challenging space, and know that this is a temporary thing. It's not going to last forever. It's just right now. And I think the more we can stop resisting, when we were kids, and I say this just as my children play with this, and so I've had to clean it up. I didn't know what it was called. It's like oobleck, but it's the cornstarch and water. And the more you push on it, like it doesn't move. But if you kind of move your fingers through it in a soft and gentle way, it becomes more fluid and it's able to, flow. And that is kind of what we have to do. The more we push against the transition, or the more we resist it, the harder it's going to be. But the more we can kind of just be gentle with it, be gentle with ourselves, be gentle with our expectations, the more that it will be able to just flow. And the more we surrender to it, the more it will be able to flow. We're a work in progress. It's okay. It's okay. And just not forcing it. Like, just chill out. Just chill. Like, be chill. My kids say that now. It's chill. I haven't exactly figured out, like, it's good. Don't worry about it. I feel like that's what it means. It's chill. And so this is where I told you I brought this up in my mastermind meeting a couple weeks ago. And my friend, she reminded me that it's always the darkest right before there's a shift. You probably heard it's always darkest before dawn. And it's always hardest. It's always hard before you have that sort of break in the clouds and the sun shines through. And this is something to remember. And all that to say, don't give up. Don't beat yourself up. Don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself some grace. I'm thinking of a clients of mine who there's retirement and there's nothing to necessarily give up on, but when your life shifts in that way, it's going to be challenging. How do I kind of interact with my partner? How do I go from having this idea of I have a purpose, I go do the thing every day, and then I'm done with that thing. And now I have a whole new, what am I going to do? What do I do? And there can be some resistance there, and just letting go of that. And it feels dark when you're thinking about, overthinking all the different things that might go wrong, all of the ways, and that is something most of the time people think is this, joyous anticipating, and it can be, and it is. And also it's a rearranging of everything that you know. And how can you, kind of just be chill with that? How can you let it happen, let it unfold, and know that you have the ability, you have the power to handle it as it does unfold. Oh, can I just say that again? Because I needed to hear that when it happens, I'm getting emotional, that when it happens, you will have the ability to handle it as it unfolds. Oh my gosh, my dog is coming over here. I told you I was in the middle of it. My poor dog is like, what is wrong? So trusting in yourself that you can do it, that whatever happens. And this is like good stuff too. Let me just tell you, I'm fine. All the things that are happening are the good version of the things. It's going to be different. And, that you can handle it. So, excuse me, this rule went deep here. I was not expecting that. But having this kind of, for me and for everyone, your brain likes to have that kind of predictability. Your brain likes to know what is going to happen next. It requires less energy for your body. Your brain burns less calories because you don't have to think about all these things. We have our rituals and routines and all the things. And then when it shifts, even if it's good, it's like, alert, you have to figure this out. And so know that is normal also, that the things that you're experiencing, you're fine, you're normal. These are all things that are absolutely okay to feel and to have that kind of angst about anticipating. But the better you can set yourself up in it and for it, the better off you'll be, and the better you'll be on the other side of it, and knowing that you will get to the other side of it, and that this is all, truly, it's all just temporary. It's kind of like if you either have kids or have been around kids, it's like, I remember when they would sleep or not sleep, and you're like, oh, I finally got it. And then they're like, nope, no, you did not. We are going to switch. It's all a phase. My 9-year-old likes to say that, just a phase. It's all just a phase. We're all just in this phase of life, and a new one will come, good or bad. A new one will come. And when it shows up, we will handle it. And if you use these tools and other things that you've probably experienced that you know work, remember to use them. That is the important thing. All right. That is it. Whatever your transition that you may be experiencing or going through, big or small, I hope that there is a little just nugget of inspiration, or the thing that kind of sits with you that you remember and you are able to use. If you have any questions about the Women's Coaching Circle, I would love to chat with you. I do have a call with every person that is interested, just to make sure that it is a good fit and to answer any questions that you have. But thank you. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing the podcast. I really appreciate all of you. I appreciate your messages. I am just so grateful for this kind of community and the space that this has brought to all of you and to me. It's been wonderful. All right. Have a good day.
Spirit of a Badass is a Lit Path Studios podcast and is produced by Jamie Gale and Alecia Jacobson. Music by Shane Ivers. We'll be back with another inspiring interview. Until then, keep your spirits high and your energy badass.